and welcome back to another episode of Rugby with Pads. Today we're going to try something a bit different. Over the next few weeks, I'll release a few episodes on this topic. We're going to do Around the League. It's very much an homage to one of my favourite podcasts around the NFL. Every couple of months, they do an Around the AFC episode and Around the NFC episode in about 48 minutes. They give 3 minutes to each team, effectively. We're going to do something similar, but we're going to do it from a fantasy perspective. And the idea of this series is that we look at all of the key players that are going to be fantasy relevant this year. Because for those of you who are new to fantasy, you're maybe not going to know who's relevant. Who should I be drafting? Are these guys going to be good come week 5, come week 15? Are they going to be useful for my championship run? And that's what we wanted to break down, because there's a whole lot of change. We're post-draft now. We're post-relevant free agency. Yes, there's the argument that there could be some people who are still moved around a little bit, but we'll have to wait and see on that front. And ultimately, I want to just make sure that I've done my due diligence as well, and I'm looking at these players with a lens that is critical, and that we can make sure that what we're saying, what the advice I'm giving, not that you should be following the advice I'm giving. This is all very much up to you, and it's just my informed guesstimations of what these players are. I'm not an analyst. I'm just looking at it through a lens. But it's just to make sure that we're remaining accountable, and that sounds very serious, actually. But ultimately, it's a way of just giving a tour of players who we think are going to be useful and we want to talk about. So the format of this is going to be a bit different to my homage to the Around the NFL guys. We're going to be taking a compass approach. We're going to be, this episode, you've already seen, is titled The North. So we're going to be taking a look at both the NFC and AFC North and doing a player rundown. And we're not going to go deep in depth chart. I'm going to present it on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube. But what we're going to do is basically look at the players who we think are going to be fantasy relevant. And to do that, we're going to then build a fantasy team. We're going to build an AFC fantasy team and an NFC fantasy team. And we're going to, take it apart and see who we think would be better. It's a fantasy show. We like drafting. So without further ado, let's get in. You'll notice I've got a slightly different stance. I'm standing at my desk today if you're watching. So this is an excuse to go and watch on YouTube if you haven't done already. We'll go through this. This is kind of, hopefully this lasts the rest of the off season and remains relevant. Maybe we revisit it in the preseason / early in week 1 and 2. We'll have to see how it goes. But I hope that this is going to be informative for you guys and that you'll get benefit out of it. So without further ado, let's start. Now, NFC North is a bit different this year. I'm not going to lie. Looking at the powerhouses in the NFC, there aren't any. I think we've got the Eagles and then everyone else. But the NFC North does, for me, have some interesting players around. And I've already spoken about who my guys are in last week's episode. It's only 90 minutes long, so go and have a look. But spoiler alert, it features 2 Bears players. And namely, those guys are Justin Fields, who had a massive breakout tail end of the season last year and helped me to a couple of titles, I was really very grateful for. And DJ Moore. Now, DJ Moore has been a bit of a joke for fantasy of recent years. I think it's mainly been due to poor quarterback play. I really think he is the number 1 in this lineup, and I do think he'll be fantasy relevant again this year. So I'm hoping that DJ Moore and Justin Fields is my stack. And there is a third, my guy, and the Chicago Bears. I'm not a Chicago Bears fan, as you can see from behind me. I'm a Rams fan. But I really like Cole Kmet as well. And in a tight end class, which is top heavy, you've got Kelsey, you've got Andrews, then you've got the next guys, Kittle, Waller maybe. I'm sure I'm missing someone out as well, Hawkinson. And then you've got everyone else. And I think Cole Kmet is the top of that everyone else. And I think when you're building up your rosters and you're looking at players like Justin Fields, who I am building a lot around in my League of Record because I have him as my 15th round keeper, managed to snap that. These are players that you're really considering being fantasy relevant. So I think all 3 of those guys will be very much fantasy relevant. Moving on from that, though, it's a bit of an unknown. this running back room, I am not sure of. I think that Roshan Johnson, he is a rookie, I believe. I don't think he has any stats. So, yes, he was picked this year, fourth round rookie. Then you've got Donta Foreman, who did amazingly for the Panthers yesterday. It's almost like they had a swap with Miles Sanders. But Khalil Herbert has always been a menacing presence in that lineup, and he's always stolen some goal line touches and just been around when not Miles Sanders. Oh crikey, what's his name? David Montgomery. I got David Montgomery and Miles Sanders mixed up, basically because I never draft them. But yeah, they replaced David Montgomery with Donta Foreman. Obviously, Montgomery's gone elsewhere in the NFC North, and we'll explore that. Khalil Herbert, I think, is going to be relevant, but I don't know how relevant. And I think we'll have to wait till close to the off-season and maybe help it injury comes to see who's going to come out of this running back room. But really, the players that you want to target, because Justin Fields runs so well, Justin Fields is going to be taking away those running back reps that you want there. So he is going to be so valuable for fantasy. He's going around the sixth round at the moment in ADP, although ADP is so early, it's very difficult to tell. But I would be going after him. I'd be going after DJ Moore, which is a stack that's possible. They're not too close together. Cole Kmet is a stack that you can definitely do. Going between the 5th and the 11th round there potentially. There's a lot of value to be had in the Bears, and I think they showed it towards the end of last season. They're actually okay, and I think they'll be on the field quite a lot because it doesn't feel like they've really improved their defense too much. They picked up a decent tackle in what's his name? Oh, I can't remember his name, but they picked up some offensive linemen in the draft, and they've shored up their line in free agency as well. The defense is still looking a bit shaky. Yeah, Tremaine Edmonds gives them a bit more run stoppability, and generally, I think he'll be a decent defensive player, but I wouldn't be looking towards any of the Bears defense because I think they'll be in high-scoring games similar to what the Detroit Lions were last season. Now, Detroit Lions remain really interesting for me. I like Jared Goff, not gonna lie. Yes, they they drafted in his potential replacement in Hendon Hooker, who is, I do believe he is NFL ready. He's a better version of Stetson Bennett in terms of the age and maturity. He moves better. He's not quite as dynamic as maybe Stroud or Bryce Young. He's very handy, and he was very highly sought after. Potential that he was going to go considerably higher in the draft than he went. So great pickup by the Lions there. I think he went in the 3rd in the end. Yeah, he went in the 3rd. There was potential that he was going to go in the 1st round, but maybe there was some stuff going on there. But Jared Goff is reliable, and I think he's someone that you could maybe see as making a bit of that kind of sleeper run like he did last year as well. It was him and Justin Fields. Again, it feels like I'm an NFC North fan. I'm not. Him and Justin Fields last year as a tandem who helped me out in a lot of sticky situations towards the tail end of the season on my championship run. Now, where it gets interesting, I think, is the running back room. They've obviously lost Jamal Williams, Jay Willie, and who was the other guy? DeAndre Swift, who's gone over into the NFC East, over to the Eagles. They've replaced it with Jahmyr Gibbs with the 12th overall pick. The 12th overall pick is a really interesting one. It's definitely overvalued. He's been picked higher than he potentially should have done. But I think for fantasy, he's going to be really good, and he's got a chance to be Offensive Rookie of this year. Now, there's already talk about him not playing a traditional running back role and him instead playing more of a slot receiver role. And I can see that happening. It's similar to how when Kamara was having his amazing seasons, he was playing exactly that position because the lack of wide receiver depth was there, and you can see that here. Outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is a PPR monster and who will continue to be so, he will be incredibly relevant this year. Jameson Williams is suspended for 8 weeks. 8 weeks? 6 weeks, maybe. I'll probably say here. Yeah, he's 6-game violation for his not gambling on the NFL, but gambling on college. Just if you're an NFL player, don't gamble. You've already got enough money, surely. But he will be a burner down the straight, and he will be great in best ball. I wouldn't hold him in quite as much esteem as I did when DeAndre Hopkins was in the same situation because he hasn't got the history there. But he will be useful. I think he will be useful. But outside of that, it drops. That's where I see Sam Laporta being really interesting, and maybe he is my top rookie over here, more so than Jameer Gibbs. I mean, Jameer Gibbs is going to go in the first round of rookie redrafts, rookie drafts in Dynasty. He's going to be relatively high, probably fourth round in redraft as well. Sam Laporta is going to go way down the list, and he has a chance early doors to establish himself as a really good slot receiver, because that's what he played in college. Perhaps more so than Kincaid over the Bills as well. Outside of that, there isn't anyone really I particularly like. David Montgomery is going to hound, and he's going to be potentially he's going to play the Jamal Williams role this year, which could be interesting because they are going to get into some shootouts. They have improved their defense as well. And I know we don't talk about defensive players too much in this, but it's really interesting. A very highly sought after linebacker in the draft. He got drafted 18, I believe. I can't see him on this list here, but I don't think they've got everyone on there yet. Safety in Brian Branch, he's a bit more of a hybrid safety, really interesting. Is it Jack Campbell who was drafted early? Yeah, pick 18, Jack Campbell. Quite sought after. Maybe it was a luxury pick, but they're in a good position. I think they really believe in their team. Malcolm Rodriguez is a 6th round pick last year, played amazingly. And they've got a good core to their team. They just maybe were suffering at cornerback, which they've improved a little bit as well. And that secondary does look a bit more tasty than and maybe it did once before. So the Detroit Lions will still score high, and I think that will lead their skill players to be good in fantasy. But with every good team, there has got to be a bad team, and someone who has fumbled the bag somewhat is the Green Bay Packers. And of course, they don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore. That saga is finally over. They're going forward with Jordan Love, who has started one full game. Appeared in a few others, but we've got a very limited sample size. He is a dart throw at best, and he is well outside the QB3 conversation in my eyes. But you have got a decent surrounding cast at running back. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon is a 1A, 1B scenario, I think, this year. They're going to have to rely on the run because they don't have many decent wide receivers. Yes, they drafted a few. They drafted Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave, and Tucker Kraft, both of them at tight end. We can probably see some 2 tight end sets, which potentially leads to more running. Jordan Love is a bit more athletic than Aaron Rodgers with, but he is more of a pocket passer. I just don't see this team being great for fantasy because I can't see Jordan Love giving the love to, unintended, not intended really, to Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs. Jaden Reed will play, but do we think a untested quarterback is someone that you're really going to be relying on? I think a lot's going to be said in camp, and for my money, I feel like they're going in on a little bit of a rebuild here. They're testing the water to see what they've got in Jordan Love. The fact that his contract extension didn't really back him, that was a really interesting move there. And they haven't really improved on the defensive side of the ball as much as I would have liked to see. So the Packers, although Aaron Jones and Christian Watson are going to be relevant, AJ Dillon will be as well. Love will be for the fact he's there. Not going after them. And none of these guys really get me excited. And elsewhere in the NFC North, to round it up, we've got the Minnesota Vikings, who were a surprise package last year. Don't think they're going to be as good this year. I think Kirk is going to take a little bit of a regression there. But they do have Justin Jefferson, who is possibly the most relevant player in the NFC North. He is PPR 101, 102, potentially, depending on whether you want a running back or wide receiver. He is really good. And that wide receiver 2 position, who I thought was going to be occupied by KJ Osborne, I still think will have some really good play. Jordan Addison is a great rookie wide receiver. Rookie wide receivers sometimes take a bit of time, but there is 107 vacated targets from last year, underwhelming Adam Thielen year, of which I think a lot of them will be funneled towards Jordan Addison to make it work. He's got high draft capital about him. He was picked in the first round, 23rd in the first round. He's a good player, but the pass catcher that I really like here as a secondary, and he's probably the bottom end of my tier 1 tight ends, and when I say tier 1, everyone else but Kelsey, is TJ Hawkinson. He's reliable, and even with Adam Thielen there sucking up 107 targets, he was the tight end 2 or 3 last year, I think. But he had 2022 stats, nearly 1,000 yards, 6 TDs, 86 receptions. He had low wide receiver numbers, which is what you want out of a tight end in fantasy. Elsewhere, I'm not convinced that Dalvin Cook will be a Viking at the start of the season. There's a lot of talk about him being shipped off in June when he gets better, but they can't ship him now because he's still questionable thanks to a shoulder injury, I believe. Yeah, something like that. But he's going to be reliable. He's going to be effective where he is. He wasn't particularly efficient last year, and it's whether they're going in on an NFC North, which I think is potentially a three-way battle. I don't think the Chicago Bears maybe it's a two-way battle between Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings, but the Lions are gearing up for a run. The Chicago Bears are rebuilding cleverly. The Green Bay Packers, I think, are on the slide. The Vikings maybe just holding on to what they did last year, but they were the most unconvincing 13-4 team that I've ever seen. Not that we've seen many 13-4 seasons, but 13 win teams that I've ever seen. So, kind of summing up on the NFC North, Bears, who's relevant? Fields, Moore, Komet, yeah, they're all relevant. Packers, Aaron Jones, Watson at a push, AJ Dillon as a flex maybe. Lions, Goff I think is relevant. Jameson Williams will be when he comes back, but Amon-Ra St. Brown and Gibbs I think are the plays there, and I'm really excited for Gibbs as a rookie. I am looking to him in my rookie draft. If you want a bit of a preview there, that will come out in the next week or so. And the Vikings, yeah, Kirk is relevant because of the people around him. Jefferson definitely is, and I think Hockenson and Addison will be really nice additions to the team. Well, Hockenson was already there. Hockenson is a tight end one. If you can get him, great. You're paying a premium for him. But I think maybe my thoughts around drafting tight ends late this year is maybe tempering off a little bit, but we'll have to see. And if I was to put a lineup together here, and we'll do this consistently throughout. So we'll have a 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a flex, wide receiver, running back or tight end, a kicker, because most teams have to have a kicker anyway, and we'll put a defense, and we'll have a special player. We'll have a rookie as well for all of our teams. But let's draft that team. And I think at quarterback, I've already said it about my guys. It's got to be Justin Fields. Justin Fields is he's the guy this year. I think he's going to be absolutely amazing. He has potential to be QB1. I think he'll probably sit behind Mahomes and Allen, maybe Lamar, because Lamar's got a lot of weapons this year. But if you can pick him up for QB8 money and he becomes QB4, that's brilliant. If he's in that range, that'd be brilliant. So he is my guy there. Aaron Jones, I think, is probably one of the better weapons at running back. Dalvin Cook is, if he's there, he remains good as well. And obviously, Jay Jettis, Mr. Jefferson, he's brilliant. But this is where we come to a bit of where do we go next? Because I've got to mention at the top of here, I'm limiting myself to only 3 players from each team, and I can't just load up with Bears. I can't just load up with Lions because I want, I've got a bit of flexibility. But I think at wide receiver 2, I've got to go Amon-Ra St. Brown over Christian Watson or DJ Moore there. I love DJ Moore. I probably should change this around, but you know what? I'm going to change it around a little bit, and I'm going to put DJ Moore at my flex because he's not proven yet. Amon-Ra St. Brown is proven, and he's got an even more interesting runway to early success, especially with Jameson Williams out of the picture. Komet is the obvious tight end there. I'm not going for any of the rookie tight ends over in Green Bay. And Greg Joseph, he's going to be my kicker. I realise you're just watching a screen at the moment. You should probably watch my face for a little while if you're on watching me on YouTube. But the defense, there aren't many good defenses in the NFC North, I don't think. But I will take the Lions because I think they will be interesting, and they do force enough turnovers. Aiden Hutchinson has been brilliant. Even he got a couple of interceptions last year, so be really interested to see that. And of course, my rookie is going to be, it's got to be Jahmyr Gibbs. He is going to be electric, especially with DeAndre Swift out there. So just a rundown of the NFC North team. It's Fields, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Greg Joseph, the Lions on defense, and Jahmyr Gibbs as my rookie extra guy. You know what? If I wouldn't be upset if that was the team that I drafted. It's not going to be because I don't know how you could get to some of those players. A lot of first round picks, but this is what we're comparing. We're comparing the strength of teams across the board, across all of the points of the compass here. Right, we'll take a quick break, and on the other side, we'll get back with the AFC North, which has some interesting players that we want to talk about. And we're back, and we're going to go straight back into the AFC, and we'll start with Baltimore Ravens, who a lot's happened at Baltimore. They have drafted a new wide receiver in Zay Flowers. They have got Odell Beckham Jr. In free agency, and I believe, although I can't see him on here, but isn't there tell that Antonio Brown is over there now as well? That seems a bit concerning because I thought he's an insane person now. And of course, Lamar Jackson is signed for however long he's signed for. There was a huge extension. He's now the highest paid quarterback in the business. Was it 260 million? Oh, he's not working out apparently at this time, but he is apparently going to throw for 6,000 yards thanks to all the receivers that he's got at his disposal. I don't think that's true. I still think they are a run first team, and because of that, I'm really excited about J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Lamar Jackson is, of course, going to be incredibly relevant. I don't think Zay Flowers is going to be as relevant. I think you might have to have a wait and see approach. And I do worry about Rashad Bateman's value because I think they're all going to dilute themselves, especially when you have Mark Andrews as probably their first receiving option. And he is going to be their best receiver, regardless of position. He is going to be a touchdown monster. He's going to be involved. He's going to be the first look wherever they can. Yes, they will scheme up Rashad Bateman. They will scheme up Odell. They will scheme up Dave Flowers and even Antonio Brown if he's there as well. I need to do my research on that. But yeah, there's some good players there, and I think they're all going to drive this. Will they run? Won't they run? Confusion, play action game. They've got cooking over there. As such, I like J.K. Dobbins. He's finally healthy. He's got two legs working. That probably helps. And I think because of that, it elevates Gus as well. Everything is good about their running game. So those guys are all relevant. Gus maybe more so as a deep throw or as a handcuff to J.K. Dobbins, who I think will be the guy who is going to run a lot. And I think we can probably see maybe a 1,200-yard season from him, even when he was injured. 520 yards previous years. Let's have a quick look here. Oh, it just doesn't give previous years, but I can go back and have a look another time. But he has been close to that mark, even when he's been in a backfield committee as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of players here that are relevant, but I would really highlight Lamar, really highlight Andrews, and everyone else is kind of just there, and they will be a good outfit. Obviously, big shout out to Justin Tucker, who is the GOAT at kicker, and he is one of the only kickers that I will allow to be mentioned on this program. We have the Baltimore Ravens didn't do great last season, 10-7. I think it's still playoff worthy. And they had a Pro Bowler in Snoop Huntley, so go get you. I think that was more alternate. But a team I'm a bit more excited about is the Cincinnati Bengals, mainly because they have Joe Burrow, who I think is going to be an amazing quarterback again this year. He's so mature. He is so. Yeah, he's just brilliant. So I'm really excited about Joe Burrow this year, especially who he's throwing to. Jamar Chase and him just have that electric connection. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. This is the best trio of wide receivers you've got there. There is a lot of questions around Joe Mixon, though. He has been cited for menacing. That's not a thing we have in the UK. But he's been cited for menacing activity. He's apparently not going anywhere. He's been not guilty of this menacing charge, which I think is something to do with holding a GUN. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube, so that's why I'm just spelling it out. But hopefully you guys all have above a year 2 reading level. Yeah, he's an interesting player, and he's someone that I've actually gone after because I think he is going to play. I think if anything, it's going to play out a bit more like Kamara. Where they defer anything till the next year. It's an in-season. They're not investigating from the NFL. I don't think there's time to give sanctions there, and especially if there is even a civil or federal case against him, things will wait, and they haven't got anyone else. And the fact that they haven't really drafted a replacement yet. They picked up a 5th-round rookie in Chase Brown. He's not the guy. He's not an every down guy. They've got Chris Evans waiting in the wings. Trevion Williams, who I've never really heard of. Again, another 6th-round pick. They don't have the draft capital to replace him. And Joe Mixon is incredibly effective. Yeah, he didn't have a great season last year. I think that was hard through injury as well. But he is really good, and he is a potential running back one, especially in this system. I do think he is going to be very, very relevant this year. Irv Smith, he is relevant if he stays on the field. He has not stayed on the field very much and has not been particularly productive in his life. So he's a player that maybe I'm fading on, but yeah, tight end is a tough position to look at. But if he goes down, I think Drew Sample could be okay. That's about it. I don't think there's much more to say about that tight end room, based on the fact they've got so many wide receiver options. You know, Irv Smith, if anything, is another body to get into the mix. Maybe some protection in case one of the other guys goes down. And again, you know what? I don't like doing this, but I'm going to talk about Evan McPherson because he is great. He is a set and forget kicker, which is what you want. You don't want to be fluffing about in the waiver wire for kickers. Defense, I don't think there's anything to write home about. It's okay. You know what? It's more than okay, and I think they have readdressed some of the people they lost. I think Nick Scott was brought in this year, I believe. I need to go have a look at that. Yeah, he was with the Rams last year. He was great. Obviously they've lost Jesse Bates, who was a Pro Bowler, but they've drafted pretty well. I think they're focusing more on the trenches. So yeah, I think it could be a really interesting Bengals team, and a team that I would be excited to get any piece of. I'm really upset that I don't have T. Higgins anymore, but I've got a first rounder instead of him, so yeah, it's okay. The Browns, team I'm slightly less excited about, but I still think have some really good highlights in their lineup. Deshaun Watson is Deshaun Watson. Will he be his old self, or will he be 2022 self, which was not inspiring? It was a bit poor, to be fair. Nick Chubb will be Nick Chubb. He will run and run and run and run and run. 1,500 scrimmage yards. Amazing. 12 TDs last year. He is a running back one, and he will continue to be so. He's great. I think Amari Cooper is one of the lone bright spots in the receiving game. Everyone else is a meh. But I do think when it comes to rookies, Cedric Tillman has the chance to rise above the pack during rookie training camps and all of that fun stuff. Elijah Moore was brought in. He had a lot of potential a couple of years ago. I think he was a 2nd-round pick. Yeah, he was. Oh, I remembered that rightly. For the Jets, he didn't work out there, but maybe he'll work out in his second home, given a chance to play in a system which is quite conducive to wide receivers as well. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think, is another guy. David Bell going into his sophomore season, he wasn't around much. 24 receptions for 214 yards. That's not too bad for an average depth of target, but they obviously didn't have enough faith with him to stick with him this year, and they've obviously gone and got Cedric Tillman with a decent amount of draft capital, a 3rd-round rookie wide receiver who is a bigger guy. I like Cedric Tillman. He's a bigger body. Could be interesting, and David Njoku will be David Njoku. He will be relatively interesting. I think their defense has improved a little bit. I think they just need to play better than they did last year to be good. Then maybe they're relevant, but I don't think, again, you're not going after one. Another kicker. Oh, I don't know. Why do I like kickers in the AFC North? K. Jork, he's worthwhile being in that conversation of the set and forget guy as well. And finally, we'll talk about Pittsburgh Steelers, who many people said had the best draft of anyone. They picked up Broderick Jones for great draft value. Where did they pick him up? In the 14th, and he was potentially one of the best best edge tackles best tackles in the game. Or sorry, not in the game, in the draft. I think that alone elevates everyone else, and the investment they've had in the line. When you look at what they were struggling with last year, Najee Harris was not able to run effectively through the line, and picking up a tackle is going to help them move everyone about. Isaac Samula, this guy, I probably butchered that name. Isaac Suamalo? Yes, who was at the Eagles last year. Great in the run game there. I think that's going to be really interesting for him. I think this pick of Darnell Washington is going to be really interesting. And I think everyone thought he's an athletic freak. He's going to be great. He dropped a little bit in the draft because of some injuries. I think he had a problem with his knee. but he will be great as a blocking tight end in that run game. You pair him up with that tackle, Broderick Jones, and you've got a recipe for a rookie season return renaissance for Najee Harris, and that's what we want. That same trajectory that we had with Todd Gurley all those years ago, but maybe not ending such unfortunate circumstances with injury and then just falling out of the league. We miss you, Todd Gurley, we really do. But there are some relevant players here. I think Najee Harris will be relevant. I like George Pickens more so than I like Deontay Johnson. Allen Robinson is suck it and see. He's sitting on my my dynasty roster because I had faith with him as a Ram last year. I was severely mistaken, but sorely mistaken. Sorry. And Pat Fryermuth, I really like him as a tight end. He is in that kind of middle tier of guys that you have in your roster, and you don't have to worry about too much. He's going to pick up the odd reception. Yeah, nothing fancy here. He's not wide receiver thing, but a lot of yards last year. Not enough touchdowns. I didn't like that, but they didn't score enough touchdowns in general last year. But I think Kenny Pickett will have a sophomore season boost. They're not looking at Mitch Trubisky breathing down his throat again. They're in on him. I like the defense and what they did there as well. Joey Porter Jr. At cornerback to just boost up that secondary. Really like it as well. They have a good secondary, and they have a good. If TJ Watt stays healthy, have a very good defensive line as well. I'm not going to talk about Chris Boswell other than mentioning his name because I don't think he's hugely relevant. He's not going to win any fantasy games. So there's a lot of players. There's a lot of interesting players in the AFC North as well. Break it down. Lamar, Dobbins, I really like. Mark Andrews, Justin Tucker, Chubb, Deshaun Watson is relevant. Very, very much relevant. If he is the old Deshaun Watson. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and in rookies, obviously you've got Cedric Tillman that we mentioned. Pickens, Najee, Muth, all relevant as well. So let's build a team out of those to compete. So we have Lamar. I think he's got to be your running back. Sorry, your running back. Oh God, he won't like me saying that. He's being paid quarterback money, not running back money, and he is really, really good. And he will be an excellent foil against my NFC pick of Justin Fields. Nick Chubb is an RB1, definitely. I've already instilled the virtues of Najee Harris being great as my RB2. I really like that. Then we've got Jamar Chase. Yeah, I think he's going to be in the picture for a top 5 wide receiver pick alongside Justin Jefferson. It's a really difficult one, but on wide receiver 2 isn't much of a. It's a big step down, but it's a really good wide receiver 2 in Amari Cooper. I really like that as well. I'm going to put Fryermuth, Pat Fryermuth, as my tight end. I don't think I like that tight end pick. I might change that around a little bit, but it's because I need so many Ravens in my side as well. Because I'm going to pick Justin Tucker as my kicker. I've got Higgins, by the way, as my my flex. My defense, at a push, I'm going with the Bengals. I could go with the Browns. I could go with any of them. But my rookie pick for them, you know what? I'm going to have to rethink this, I think. But because there weren't that many interesting rookie picks. And if I was to go for any of them, I would probably land on Zay Flowers. Mainly because I've got some free, but if I could pick offensive lineman, I would, because it would be the Steelers. And if I thought that Darnell Washington was going to get more involved in the passing attack, I'd pick him as well. But Zay Flowers will be involved. I think it's a wait and see. I think he's a decent pickup. So, who do we think has won our little draft? So let's take a look at who we think won. Now, I'm not condoning this as the site to go for, but yeah, who do we really think broke it down? I thought I'd just use this to, as an interesting way to compare both teams. For those of you not watching on YouTube, go to rototrade.com. Really interesting, just to give you an idea of how it thinks your team will do. And I put in the rosters, and it pumped out who it thought was going to be good and who was going to be useful. Funnily enough, the NFC North actually demoted DJ Moore in favour of David Montgomery at the flex position. I don't agree with that. I like DJ Moore way better, and he's my wide receiver 2. I'm on Russell Brown probably more at flex, but that's that. And in the AFC North, I think the changes is what we thought. No one's better than anyone else. So this site gives the NFC the edge, but I think in my head, I don't quite. And I'm going to do a kind of like, let's go pick for pick over the 10 picks here, really. Now, at quarterback, I give Justin Fields a nod over Lamar Jackson. That might be recency bias more than anything else, but I do like Justin Fields a lot. At running back, Nick Chubb definitely gets the edge over Aaron Jones or Dalvin Cook. I think that is obvious. And I think even the running back 2 with Najee Harris, I think he's definitely a better play than both of those. I think the AFC North just has better running backs. And they probably have better wide receivers, all told as well. Maybe it's a tit for tat. And I'd probably say a wide receiver 1 across this group is Justin Jefferson. A wide receiver 2 across this group is Jamar Chase. So I'm going to give, for wide receiver positions, I would normally go which wide receiver 1s are better, which wide receiver 2s are better, but I'm going to give a 1-all there. So at the moment, the AFC just slightly ahead. Now I'm going to realign because originally I put down Pat Fryermuth as being a more advantageous, but in this setup I like Cole Kmet as a stack, and I'm taking it as a team, so I'm going to move that, and I'm going to have Cole Kmet as my pick there, so to draw it a bit more even. And at flex, I'm going to stick the same. DJ Moore versus DJ Moore versus Amari Cooper. In a vacuum, I'm taking DJ Moore, and even if it's going to be a pick either or between Cole Kmet and DJ Moore in that stack, that's a difficult one. It's Bears Central. Let's go with it. Let's go with DJ Moore to win that one. At kicker, it's got to be Justin Tucker, hasn't it? It's not going to be Greg Joseph. Greg Joseph is useful, but it's got to be Justin Tucker, obviously. Defense, I'm taking the Bengals for consistency over the Lions, but with that rookie spot, if we're comparing Zay Flowers against Jahmyr Gibbs, I know where Jahmyr Gibbs is going to go in my rookie drafts. He's going to go 4th or 5th because I'm going to get him. But Zay Flowers is maybe going towards the end of the 1st, start of the 2nd. That's where I'm going. And I think, on the whole, this analysis pretty much agrees with it. Apparently, I've got, with my NFC North team, I've got 76% playoff chance versus 69 with the AFC team. Don't rate any QBs, but I think that's because we have no depth of QBs, so we can ignore some of this analysis as well. But generally, we picked some good players there. Really happy with that, and I do think the NFC North, if you drafted this team, not I don't think you could, would probably win you. So even though I've drawn 5 to 5 in my picks, I'm going to give the NFC North the edge, not only because this site likes it better. I agree with that for once, but also I just like the idea of that stack, whereas in the AFC I can't see any stacks really working out. I mean, Lamar Jackson doesn't really have a number 1 tight end, and he would do if I had if I put Mark Andrews in here, but for the conceit of this exercise I couldn't have too many too many of one time player, and I chose Justin Tucker as being the GOAT over Mark Andrews, who maybe have a little bit of a regression year. We'll have to see how that works out. But yeah, I'm going to pick the NFC North over the AFC just this time. So that's 1-0 to the NFC. That is how this series is going to go. We're going to go through across the compass points. We're going to take a look at all of the other players in all the relevant players in all of the other divisions and start comparing them. And after all that, we'll probably do a wrap-up episode and maybe do a mini fantasy tournament, see what would be simulated and who would come out on top. But if you've enjoyed this episode, thank you very much for listening. Please do watch out on the socials because we'll be publishing some things around the Rugby with Pads site. Again, if you haven't done already, go and take a look at rugbywithpads.com. It's not buymeacoffee.com or anymore or anything like that, but we have fully gone to rugbywithpads.com. Just a redirect. You can go and take a look at some memberships there. I might be doing a bit of a giveaway on the Waterboy membership because I realise unless you're really invested in what we're doing here, you might not want the t-shirts. But what I might do is for the first 10, you know what, I'll announce it another time, but I might do something. If you sign up to Waterboy and you're one of the first, then maybe I'll enter you in for some swag, maybe even the Angel Investor swag bag along there as well. But anyway, that's enough grandstanding there. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Really appreciate it. We'll be publishing more of these in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for listening. I hope if you're going through rookie drafts or even if you're drafting really early in best ball or anything like that, that it all goes well. And this has helped. Well, I will speak to you very soon, and thanks as always. I'm going to stop mumbling on, and I will see you on the virtual gridiron.